The asteroid belt stretched endlessly before the mining station, a field of tumbling rocks that glittered with precious metals. Inside Sector 7's extraction tunnel, Rita Hayes checked her scanner for the third time in 10 minutes. The numbers made her stomach twist. "We need to evacuate," she said firmly. Her voice carried across the comm channel to every worker in the tunnel. "The core temperature is spiking. This asteroid is going to fracture." Supervisor Thelmin turned his large, insectoid head toward her. His 4 eyes gleamed with irritation. "Your primitive sensors are malfunctioning again, human. Continue working." Rita had worked in space mining for 8 years. She knew what her equipment was telling her. The vibrations in the rock face had changed. The temperature readings were climbing faster than any stable asteroid should allow. Every instinct she possessed screamed danger. "Sir, please look at these readings," she tried again. "The resonance frequency matches the Sigma 7 disaster from last year. We lost that entire station." The second Valorian overseer, Krelvax, made a chittering sound that passed for laughter among his people. "Humans see danger everywhere. Your species evolved on a nightmare world. Of course you are always afraid." Tom Fletcher stopped drilling and looked at Rita. His face was covered in rock dust, but his eyes were sharp. He had survived 3 mining accidents in his career. He trusted Rita's judgment. So did Nina Park, who operated the extraction crane nearby. Both of them had worked with Rita long enough to know she did not panic without reason. "The structural integrity is at 72%, Rita said, keeping her voice level. "It was at 90% an hour ago. That is not normal degradation." The third Valorian overseer, Gentile, waved a claw dismissively. "You will finish extracting the iridium deposits. The Council expects this shipment completed today. We will not report delays because a human is nervous." Rita looked at the 20 human workers scattered throughout the tunnel. Some operated drilling equipment. Others managed the conveyor systems that carried ore to the processing center. All of them were watching her now, waiting for her decision. She had a choice to make. She could obey the overseers and hope her readings were wrong. Or she could trust 8 years of experience and the survival instincts that had kept humanity alive on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. "All human personnel," Rita said clearly into her comm, "evacuate to Emergency Shelter Beta 3 immediately. Drop your equipment and move now. You do not have authority to give that order." Thelman's voice rose sharply. "I am the supervisor of this operation." Rita was already running toward the exit tunnel. Behind her, she heard the sound of equipment being abandoned. Tom and Nina were right behind her. The other humans followed without question. They had learned something the galaxy refused to acknowledge. When a Deathworlder said danger was coming, you listened. "If you leave this tunnel, you are all fired," Krelvax shouted. "The Council will revoke your work permits. You will never work in space again." Rita did not slow down. The emergency shelter was 400 meters away. Her legs pumped hard, carrying her through the tunnel at a pace that would exhaust most species. Humans were built for running. Their ancestors had chased prey across endless plains until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. 400 meters was nothing. The shelter door opened automatically when Rita's ID chip registered. She dove inside and started pulling other workers through. Tom helped count heads. Nina sealed the door as soon as the last human was inside. "All personnel accounted for," Tom reported. He was breathing hard but not gasping. None of them were. Humans could run and still function. It was another adaptation from their nightmare homeworld. Through the shelter's small window, Rita could see the 3 Valorian overseers still standing in the tunnel. They were gesturing angrily, probably reporting the human workers to higher authorities. They were not evacuating. They refused to believe they were in danger. Rita checked her scanner one more time. The core temperature had reached critical levels. The asteroid's rotation was creating stress fractures throughout its structure. She estimated they had 2 minutes, maybe less. "Brace positions," she ordered. The humans secured themselves to the shelter's anchor points. They knew what was coming. 90 seconds later, the asteroid's core exploded. Superheated gas that had been trapped under pressure for millions of years suddenly found a weak point. It vented with tremendous force directly through the mining tunnel. The explosion was not large by cosmic standards, but inside the confined space of the tunnel, it was devastating. The shock wave hit the emergency shelter like a hammer. The humans were thrown against their restraints. Equipment tore loose and crashed around the small space. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red light. When the shaking stopped, Rita released her restraints and checked her people. Some had minor injuries. Bruises, cuts, one possible broken wrist. but everyone was alive. They had survived because they trusted their own judgment over alien authority. The shelter's external cameras showed the mining tunnel completely collapsed. There was no sign of the 3 Valorian overseers. They had died instantly when the core vented. Rescue ships arrived 6 hours later. By then Rita and her crew had already done a complete damage assessment. They had treated their own injuries using the shelter's medical supplies. They had maintained calm and order in a situation that would have caused panic among most species. The Galactic Council's response came 2 days later. Rita stood in the station's communication center, listening to the official statement with growing disbelief. The human workers demonstrated negligence and cowardice, the council representative declared. They abandoned their posts and failed to protect their supervisors. The deaths of 3 Valorian citizens are the direct result of human incompetence. The human colony on Kepler 442b will be seized as reparations. All human work permits across council space are under review. Tom stood beside Rita, his hands clenched into fists. They are blaming us for saving ourselves? Nina shook her head slowly. They are making an example of us, reminding us that we are just labor. We have no rights. Rita thought about her sister on Kepler 442b. She thought about the 1,000 humans who had built lives on that colony world. She thought about every human worker across the galaxy who did the jobs no other species would touch. The dangerous jobs. The dirty jobs. The jobs in environments that other species considered lethal. She opened a secure communication channel. One that reached other human workers across dozens of worlds. Her message was simple. This is Rita Hayes. The council has made their decision clear. They see us as tools, not people. I think it is time we showed them what happens when the tools stop working. Pass this message to everyone. Stand down. Let them try to do our jobs themselves. Within an hour, her message had spread to every human outpost, mining station, and colony in council space. Within a day, the word had reached Earth itself. The response was unanimous. Humans across the galaxy stopped reporting for their shifts. They walked away from the toxic waste facilities, the high radiation labs, the deep space rescue stations, the wildfire suppression teams, and the dangerous construction projects. They simply stopped doing the work that kept galactic civilization running. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Humans had been nice because they chose to be nice. That choice was not permanent. And when Deathworlders stopped being patient, the consequences would be something every species would remember for generations to come. The first species to volunteer for human jobs were the Kravik. They were a proud warrior race with thick exoskeletons and powerful limbs. Their representatives stood before the Galactic Council and declared that humans were clearly exaggerating the difficulty of their work. We have conquered 17 star systems through military might, the Kravik commander announced. We can certainly handle simple mining operations. The council assigned 40 Kravik workers to the asteroid belt where Rita Hayes had worked. The same belt that humans had navigated safely for 12 years. The Kravik arrived with confidence and expensive equipment. They entered the asteroid field without hesitation. 3 days later, only 16 Kravik remained alive. The others had died in accidents that human workers had avoided routinely. Asteroids that tumbled unpredictably. Micrometeorite storms that appeared without warning. Equipment failures in environments where reaction time meant the difference between life and death. The Kravik survivors evacuated. Their commander refused to speak about what had happened. But the message spread quickly through council space. The work humans did was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. On Station Meridian, the orbital platform began experiencing critical malfunctions. The station housed 50,000 residents from a dozen different species. Its hull required constant maintenance because it orbited through a debris field. Human workers had performed hull repairs during meteor showers for years. The station administrator hired a team of Zelthian technicians to replace the humans. Zelthians had 6 arms and could work quickly. They seemed perfect for the job. The technicians lasted 4 hours. The meteor shower that day was classified as light by human standards. Only a few hundred small rocks per hour. But the Zelthians had never worked in such conditions. Their reaction speed was too slow. Their suit technology was designed for controlled environments, not chaos. 2 Zelthians died when meteors punctured their suits. The others refused to continue. They abandoned the repair work and returned inside the station. Without regular maintenance, Station Meridian's orbit began to decay. The administrator sent urgent messages to the council requesting human workers return. The council ignored the requests. They insisted other solutions would be found. On the agricultural colony of Demeter 7, massive wildfires broke out in the oxygen-rich forests. This happened every dry season. Human firefighting teams had always contained the blazes within a few days. The fires were dangerous but manageable for humans who had evolved in similar conditions on Earth. The Council sent a team of Chixaray to handle the fires. The Chixaray were an insectoid species known for their efficiency and organization. They arrived with advanced fire suppression equipment and detailed plans. The Chixaray lasted 2 hours. The heat was too intense. The smoke was too thick. The oxygen levels were too high. Their breathing systems could not filter the air properly. 3 Chixaray collapsed from heat exhaustion. The team leader called for immediate evacuation. The fires continued to spread. Within a week, they had consumed 40% of the colony's forests. Thousands of colonists evacuated to safer areas. Food production stopped. The colony faced starvation if the fires were not controlled soon. Similar disasters were unfolding across Council space. A chemical processing plant on Titan, 7 shut down completely. The plant produced essential medicines used by 17 different species. Only humans could work in the facility because the chemical exposure would poison anyone else within days. The Council tried to automate the processes, but the equipment failed constantly and required hands-on maintenance. The Krenth Empire faced an unexpected crisis. They were the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Their armies had never lost a major conflict. But 40% of their shock troops were human. The soldiers who went into the worst combat zones first. The ones who could fight for days without rest. The ones who kept going even when injured. All the human soldiers had resigned. The Krenth tried to fill the gaps with their own warriors. In the first battle without human troops, the Krenth suffered 3 times their normal casualties. Their soldiers could not endure the same conditions humans thrived in. They could not push through pain the way humans did. They could not adapt as quickly when plans failed. General Vexlar of the Krenth Empire sent a secret report to the Council. The report was marked classified, but it leaked within days. The contents shocked everyone who read it. Human soldiers are not superior because of technology or training, the report stated. They are superior because of biology. Their pain tolerance is beyond our comprehension. Their ability to function while injured defies logic. They evolved as persistence hunters who chased prey until it died from exhaustion. This same trait makes them unstoppable in combat. Without humans, the Krenth Empire's military effectiveness has decreased by 60%. The Council tried to keep the report quiet, but the information spread. Other species began sharing their own experiences with human workers. The stories were all similar. Humans did not just work in dangerous conditions. They excelled in them. They seemed most comfortable in environments that other species found nightmarish. A luminary scientist published research that went viral across the galactic network. She had studied Earth's history and environment. Her conclusions were disturbing to many species. Humans call their planet Earth, which means dirt in their primary language, she wrote. But every other species that has studied their world calls it by a different name. We call it a Class 12 Death World. The highest danger classification that exists. Humans evolved in constant competition with megafauna that could kill them easily. They survived by outlasting everything else. By running longer. By enduring more pain. By refusing to quit even when logic said they should. The scientist continued, when we hired humans for dangerous work, we thought we were exploiting primitive laborers. We were wrong. We were asking Death World apex predators to do jobs in environments they found comfortable. A toxic waste facility that kills most species in hours? Humans evolved in places where the air itself was poisonous at times. High radiation that causes immediate cellular damage? Humans repair DNA damage more efficiently than any known species. Forest fires in oxygen-rich atmospheres? Human ancestors used fire as a tool for hundreds of thousands of years. By the end of the first week, the Council finally understood the scope of the crisis. Supply chains were collapsing. Critical infrastructure was failing. Military capabilities were diminished. And there was no quick solution because humans were biologically unique. The Council called an emergency session. Representatives from 300 species gathered to discuss the situation. The debate was heated and desperate. We must offer them better terms, one representative argued. Higher pay, better conditions. That shows weakness, another countered. If we give in to their demands, other species will make similar demands. An elderly Valorian counselor named Shelvar listened to the arguments for hours. Finally, she raised a claw for silence. When the chamber quieted, she spoke with a voice heavy with age and wisdom. I have served on this council for 70 years, Shelvar said. I have seen many crises, but I have never seen us so helpless. And I know why we are helpless. We treated humans as primitives not because they were weak. We did it because they terrified us. We saw what they were capable of and we tried to control them with bureaucracy and disrespect. Now they have shown us the truth. They were never our servants. They were doing us a favor. And we mistook their patience for weakness. The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to admit Shelvar was right. But deep down, every representative knew she had spoken the truth. The galaxy had depended on Deathworlders for decades. And now the Deathworlders had decided to stop being nice. 3 weeks into the strike, the galaxy was falling apart. Station Meridian had been evacuated completely. Its orbit had decayed too far to save without human engineers willing to work in the debris field. 50,000 people had lost their homes. The station would crash into the planet below within a month. Demeter 7 was still burning. The fires had consumed 70% of the colony's forests now. Automated systems had failed. Robot firefighters had melted in the heat. The remaining colonists huddled in protective shelters, waiting for rescue that might never come. They were running out of food and water. The medical crisis was even worse. Without the chemical processing plant on Titan 7, 17 species faced medicine shortages. Hospitals across the galaxy were rationing supplies. Some treatments had stopped completely. People were dying from diseases that had been easily curable just a month ago. The council had called another emergency session. This time they invited human representatives to attend. Not to negotiate but to present information. The council wanted to understand exactly what humans did. They needed to know the full scope of the problem. Rita Hayes stood before the assembled representatives. Beside her were 2 other humans. Carl Foster had been a rescue specialist for 15 years. Lisa Grant had worked in toxic waste management for a decade. Together, they had prepared a presentation that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. Thank you for allowing us to speak, Rita began. Her voice was calm and professional. We have prepared a list of jobs that humans perform across council space. Jobs that we have been told are simple labor. Unskilled work. We would like to share this list with you. A holographic display appeared above the council floor. Numbers began scrolling past. Job classifications, locations, casualty rates for non-human workers who had attempted the same work. Deep space mining in asteroid fields with active meteor activity, Rita read. Humans have maintained a casualty rate of 0.3% over 12 years. The Kravik volunteers experienced a 60% casualty rate in 3 days. The council members shifted uncomfortably. The Kravik representative looked away. Hull repair on orbital stations during debris storms, Rita continued. Humans perform these repairs monthly with minimal injuries. The Zelthian technicians suffered a 50% casualty rate in 4 hours. They have refused to continue the work. Carl stepped forward to speak. He was a big man with scars on his arms from years of dangerous rescues. I worked search and rescue in collapsed mines, burning buildings and toxic spill sites. Most species cannot enter these environments at all. Those who try usually die within minutes. Humans can work in these conditions for hours. He pulled up footage from a rescue operation 2 years ago. The video showed Carl and his team entering a collapsed mine where poisonous gas was leaking. They wore basic breathing equipment but no full protective suits. The temperature was hot enough to cause burns. The structure was unstable and could collapse further at any moment. We pulled out 23 miners from 6 different species that day, Carl said. We worked for 11 hours straight in those conditions. The council gave us a commendation and a small bonus. Then they assigned us to an even more dangerous site the next week. Lisa Grant spoke next. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I managed toxic waste disposal on 3 different worlds. The waste we handle would kill most species through skin contact alone. It causes cellular breakdown at the molecular level. Humans have a resistance to these toxins because our homeworld exposed us to thousands of poisonous substances throughout our evolution. We built up defenses that other species never needed. She displayed images of the waste facility. Pools of chemicals that glowed with strange colors. Storage containers marked with every warning symbol the galaxy recognized. Workers in protective gear that looked minimal compared to what other species required. This facility processes waste from 40 different industrial operations, Lisa explained. Without it, those industries cannot function safely. Toxic waste will accumulate until it contaminates entire planets. The council has tried to automate the facility, but the robots break down constantly. The environment is too corrosive. They need constant maintenance, and only humans can survive long enough in the facility to repair them. Rita took over the presentation again. We have identified over 3,000 job classifications where humans are the primary workers. These jobs share common characteristics: high toxicity, extreme temperatures, dangerous radiation, unstable environments, or extended physical endurance requirements. In every case, other species either cannot do the work at all, or they suffer catastrophic casualty rates when they try. The display changed to show a map of Council space. Red dots marked every location where humans worked. There were thousands of them. Mining operations, construction sites, emergency response stations, military bases, research facilities, and industrial plants. The red dots covered the map like a disease. If you remove human workers from all these locations, Rita said quietly, galactic civilization will collapse within 6 months. Not because humans are special, but because the galaxy built its infrastructure assuming humans would always be available to do the dangerous work. You created a civilization that depends on Deathworlders, and then you treated those Deathworlders with contempt. The council chamber was silent. Representatives stared at the map, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. They had not just exploited human labor. They had become completely dependent on it. A young Luminari counselor floated forward. Her species were peaceful philosophers who rarely spoke in council sessions. "I must ask a question that troubles me," she said. "Why did humans accept these jobs? Your people knew they were dangerous. You knew other species could not do this work. Why did you agree to it?" Rita smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Because we needed work permits to live in council space. Because our colonies needed resources we could only get through trade. Because we were told if we proved ourselves useful, we would eventually be granted full citizenship and representation. We were promised equality if we worked hard enough. That was 23 years ago. We are still waiting." Carl spoke up, his voice rougher than Rita's. "And because humans are natural problem solvers. We see something that needs doing and we do it. When we found out the mining stations were losing workers to accidents, we volunteered to help. When we learned that medicines could not be produced safely, we found ways to do it. We thought we were building goodwill. We thought we were proving ourselves worthy of respect. Instead," Lisa added coldly, "you took our help for granted. You decided that because we could do dangerous work we should do all of it. You paid us poorly, gave us no political voice, and blamed us when things went wrong. You treated us like expendable tools." An elderly Valorian counselor named Shelvar rose slowly from her seat. She had been silent throughout the presentation, but now she commanded attention simply by standing. She was ancient even by Valorian standards. She had served on the council longer than most species had been members. "I must speak a truth that shames me," Shelvar said. Her voice was steady despite her age. 23 years ago, I voted against granting humans full council membership. I argued that they were too dangerous, too unpredictable. I said that a species from a death world could not be trusted with political power. She paused, looking around at her fellow counselors. Many of them looked away, uncomfortable with her confession. "I was not alone in this thinking," Shelvar continued. "Many of us feared humans. We saw their physical capabilities and we were afraid. So we found ways to control them. We gave them dangerous work and low status. We told ourselves we were helping them by providing employment. But the truth is darker. We treated humans badly not because they were weak or primitive. We did it because they terrified us. And now our fear has created a crisis that may destroy everything we have built." The chamber erupted in argument. Some counselors denied Shelvar's claims. Others defended their past decisions. But many simply sat in silence, forced to confront an uncomfortable truth about themselves and their civilization. Rita watched the chaos with satisfaction. The galaxy was finally beginning to understand. Humans had not been serving the council out of obligation. They had been making a choice. And that choice could be unmade. 2 months had passed since humans walked away from their jobs. The galaxy was in crisis mode. 12 colonies had been evacuated. 4 major space stations had been abandoned. Supply chains for essential goods had collapsed completely. The medicine shortage had become critical. Hospitals were reporting deaths that could have been prevented if treatments were available. The Galactic Council met in continuous session, desperately searching for solutions. They had tried everything. Automation failed because the environments were too harsh for machines. Other species volunteered but died or quit within days. Offering higher pay did not matter because no amount of money could change biology. Only humans could do the work and humans were not coming back. The council sent negotiators to meet with human representatives. The negotiators offered modest improvements. A slight increase in pay. Better safety equipment. A promise to investigate human complaints about discrimination. Rita Hayes listened to their offer in a meeting room on Luna Station. Beside her sat Carl Foster, Lisa Grant, and 12 other human leaders from across the galaxy. They had been elected by human workers to speak for their interests. They listened politely as the council's negotiator, a luminary named Velsha, presented the proposal. When Velsha finished, Rita responded simply. No. Velsha's translucent body rippled with confusion. You have not even discussed our offer among yourselves. Perhaps you should take time to consider it. We do not need time, Carl said. His voice was flat and final. Your offer is an insult. You are offering us slightly better conditions for doing the same work that is destroying our bodies. You are not offering what we actually want. And what do you want? Velsha asked, though the answer was obvious. Full citizenship, Lisa stated clearly. Equal representation on the council. Voting rights. Legal protections. Everything that every other species in council space enjoys. We want to be treated as equals, not as convenient labor. Velsha floated backward slightly. That decision requires a full council vote. It cannot be granted quickly. These things take time. You have had 23 years, Rita reminded her. You promised us consideration for citizenship if we proved ourselves. We have proved ourselves beyond any doubt. We have shown you what happens when we are not here. Now you know the truth. You need us far more than we need you. The negotiations broke down. The council returned to debate among themselves. Some councillors argued for granting human demands immediately. Others insisted it would set a bad precedent. A few suggested trying to force humans back to work through economic sanctions or military pressure. The military option was dismissed quickly. The Krenth Empire had shared classified combat simulations. The results were clear. Humans would be devastating opponents in any conflict. They could endure conditions that would kill other species. They could fight injured. They could survive on minimal resources. And there were billions of them on Earth and the colonies. A war with humanity would be a disaster. Economic sanctions were equally useless. Humans did not need council trade as desperately as the council needed human labor. Human colonies were becoming more self-sufficient every day. Meanwhile, the galaxy was falling apart without them. While the council argued, a new crisis emerged. On the Valorian homeworld, the orbital reactor network began to fail. The reactors provided power for the entire planet. They were ancient technology built thousands of years ago. They required constant maintenance to prevent catastrophic meltdown. Human technicians had maintained the reactors for the past 15 years. The work was incredibly dangerous. The radiation levels would kill most species in minutes. The reactors operated at temperatures that could melt standard protective equipment. Only humans, with their unusual radiation resistance and heat tolerance, could work near the reactor cores long enough to perform repairs. Without maintenance, the reactors were deteriorating rapidly. Valorian engineers tried to handle the repairs themselves, but 3 died in the attempt. Their bodies could not withstand the radiation exposure. The Valorian government faced an impossible choice. Either the reactors would melt down, killing billions, or they would have to beg humans for help. Councillor Shelvar made the call herself. She contacted Rita directly, bypassing official channels. When Rita's face appeared on the communication screen, Shelvar saw no anger there. Only calm evaluation. Rita Hayes, Shelvar said quietly. I am asking for help not as a council member, but as someone who will watch her homeworld die if these reactors fail. 3 billion Valorians live on the surface below. They are innocent. They did not create the policies that harmed your people. I am begging you to save them. Rita was silent for a long moment. Behind her, Carl and Lisa waited for her decision. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The ultimate leverage. They could refuse and watch the Valorian homeworld burn. It would send a message that could never be ignored. But Rita thought about her own childhood on Earth. She remembered natural disasters, earthquakes and floods that killed thousands. She remembered how communities came together to save each other. How humans helped humans even when there was nothing to gain. It was part of what made them human. I will assemble a volunteer team, Rita said finally. We will repair your reactors. But I want you to understand something, Councillor Shelvar. We are doing this to save innocent lives. We are not doing it for the council. We are not doing it for you. We are doing it because letting billions die to make a political point is not who we are. Shelvar's body sagged with relief. Thank you. We will pay whatever you ask. We will provide any resources you need. We do not want your money, Reader interrupted. But when this is done, you will stand before the council and tell them the truth. You will tell them that humans saved Valorian lives when no one else could. You will tell them that the galaxy's dependence on Deathworlders is permanent. And you will tell them that humans deserve full citizenship, not someday but immediately. I will, Shelvar promised. I give you my word. Rita assembled her team within 6 hours. She called for volunteers who had experience with high radiation environments. 20 humans responded. All of them knew the risks. Reactor repair work was dangerous even with proper maintenance schedules. These reactors had gone without maintenance for 2 months. The radiation levels would be extreme. They arrived at the Valorian homeworld in a transport ship. The planet below was beautiful, covered in purple forests and silver oceans. 3 billion people lived there, going about their daily lives, unaware how close they were to annihilation. The reactor station orbited high above the planet. It was massive. A ring of 12 interconnected reactors that generated power through controlled fusion reactions. Each reactor was the size of a small city. The heat they produced could be felt from kilometers away. Rita and her team suited up in heavy protective gear. The suits would provide some shielding but not much. They would be exposed to lethal levels of radiation. The human body could repair the damage if exposure was limited. But it would be painful and there would be long-term health consequences. Carl checked his equipment one last time. How long do we have in there? 30 minutes maximum, Lisa answered. She had reviewed the technical specifications. After that, even our repair systems cannot keep up with the cellular damage. We do the critical repairs, stabilize the reaction cores and get out. The Valorians will have to handle the rest. They entered the reactor chamber in teams of 4. The heat hit them immediately even through the suits. Rita's skin felt like it was burning. Her radiation detector was screaming warnings. The numbers on the display were climbing into ranges that should be immediately fatal. But humans were not like other species. Their cells had evolved repair mechanisms to handle Earth's harsh environment. DNA damage that would kill a Valorian in seconds could be repaired by human cells in hours. It would not be pleasant, but they would survive. Rita worked quickly, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. She welded damaged coolant lines. She replaced radiation shielding. She recalibrated control systems that had drifted out of specification. Around her, the other humans worked with the same focused intensity. 28 minutes later, they emerged from the reactor chamber. All of them were experiencing radiation sickness. Their skin was red. Some were vomiting. But the reactors were stable. The meltdown had been prevented. Valorian medical teams rushed them to treatment facilities. Human doctors, part of the volunteer team, supervised the care. They knew their people's biology better than anyone else. Within days, all 20 team members were recovering. Shelvar visited Rita in the medical bay. The old Valorian looked ancient and tired. You saved my world, she said simply. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Rita sat up in her bed, feeling the lingering ache of radiation damage throughout her body. Remember your promise, counselor. This is the last time we save the galaxy for free. Next time we expect to be treated as equals. The council meets tomorrow, Shelvar said. I will tell them what happened here. And I will demand they grant humans full citizenship immediately. You have my word. Rita nodded. Good. Because if they refuse, we will not be volunteering again. The galaxy needs to learn this lesson now. Deathworlders are not servants. We are not tools. We are people. And we deserve respect. 6 months had passed since the Valorian reactor crisis. The Galactic Council chambers looked different now. New seats had been added to accommodate human representatives. 20 humans sat among the 300 council members, their presence a visible reminder of how much had changed. Rita Hayes occupied one of those seats. She wore simple clothes, not the elaborate robes that other counselors favored. Her appearance was deliberately plain. She wanted everyone to remember that she was a worker, not a politician. She represented people who built things with their hands and risked their lives every day. The council was voting on the Human Rights Protection Act. The name was somewhat misleading. The act protected all species from exploitation based on biological advantages. It established that no species could be forced into dangerous work simply because their biology allowed them to survive it. Fair compensation, safety protocols, and voluntary participation were now mandatory for all hazardous occupations. The vote was not even close. 280 counselors voted in favor. Only 15 voted against. 5 abstained. The act passed into galactic law with overwhelming support. Rita felt a deep satisfaction as she watched the vote tally appear on the display. This was what they had fought for. Not just rights for humans but protection for everyone. The galaxy had learned its lesson, though the cost had been high. After the session ended, Rita walked through the council complex. Beings from dozens of species nodded respectfully as she passed. Some stopped to thank her personally. A young Luminari student approached nervously. "Representative Hayes," the student said, "I am writing a thesis about the labor reforms. May I ask you a question?" "Of course," Rita replied. She always made time for students. The next generation needed to understand what had happened and why. "Do you think humans will continue doing dangerous work?" the student asked. "Now that you have equal rights, will you still take the difficult jobs?" Rita smiled. "Humans will always do difficult work. It is part of who we are. We see problems and we want to solve them. But now we do it on our terms. We are paid fairly. We are respected. And we can refuse if conditions are unsafe. That makes all the difference." The student thanked her and hurried away to continue researching. Rita watched the young Luminari go, hoping that future generations would build a better galaxy than their ancestors had. She made her way to the orbital docks where a transport waited. She was traveling to Kepler 442b, the human colony that had nearly been seized for reparations 6 months ago. The colony was thriving now. With fair trade agreements and proper compensation for their labor, the colonists were building a prosperous society. The transport journey took 3 days. Rita used the time to review reports from human workers across the galaxy. The news was mostly positive. Accidents were down because humans could now refuse unsafe assignments without fear of punishment. Pay had increased substantially. Many humans were training other species in safety protocols, sharing the knowledge they had gained through hard experience. But there were still problems. Some species resented human advancement. They saw humans as upstarts who had gotten too powerful too quickly. There had been minor incidents of discrimination and harassment. Rita made notes to address these issues at the next council session. When she arrived at Kepler 442b, a crowd waited to greet her. Thousands of colonists had gathered at the spaceport. They cheered as she emerged from the transport. Children held signs thanking her for saving their homes. Adults waved flags showing both Earth and Kepler 442b together. Rita felt uncomfortable with the hero worship. She had not done this alone. Thousands of human workers had participated in the strike. Many had suffered financial hardship. Some had been threatened or attacked. They were all heroes, not just her. But she understood why the colonists needed someone to celebrate. They needed a symbol of human determination and success. So she smiled and waved, accepting their gratitude on behalf of everyone who had fought for change. The colonial governor, a woman named Anna Price, greeted Rita personally. "Welcome home," Anna said warmly. "We have prepared a celebration in your honor." "I appreciate it," Rita said. "But I would rather tour the colony and see how things have improved." Anna laughed. "I expected you would say that. The transport is ready." They spent the day visiting farms, factories, and residential areas. Rita saw children playing in parks that had been built recently. She saw new construction projects expanding the colony's infrastructure. She saw people working hard but also taking time to enjoy their lives. This was what they had fought for. Not just survival but the chance to thrive. In the evening, Rita spoke at the Colonial Assembly Hall. 5,000 people packed into the building to hear her. She kept her speech short and simple. 6 months ago we faced a choice, Rita began. We could continue accepting unfair treatment, or we could demand respect. We chose respect. It was not an easy choice. Many of you suffered during the strike. You went without pay. You faced uncertainty about the future. But you stood firm, and because of that, everything changed. The crowd applauded. Rita waited for silence before continuing. But our work is not finished. We have won legal equality, but we must now prove that equality was deserved. We must show the galaxy that humans are not just strong bodies who can survive harsh conditions. We are innovators, artists, scientists, and leaders. We have so much more to offer than just our ability to endure pain. She paused, looking out at the faces in the crowd. Young and old, from dozens of different Earth cultures, all united by their determination to build better lives. The galaxy will remember this time, Rita said. They will tell stories about the day Deathworlders stopped being nice. But I want them to tell other stories too. Stories about human creativity, human compassion, human wisdom. We are more than just survivors. We are builders of the future. The applause was thunderous. Rita stepped down from the podium and mingled with the colonists. She listened to their stories, their hopes, their concerns. This was the part of leadership she valued most. Not the speeches or the political maneuvering, but the direct connection with the people she represented. Late that night, Rita stood alone on an observation deck, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human workers were maintaining space stations, mining asteroids, fighting fires, and doing 1,000 other dangerous jobs. But now they did it with dignity. They were paid fairly. They were respected. They could refuse unsafe work without losing everything. She thought about the 3 Valorian overseers who had died in the mining accident that started everything. Their deaths had been tragic and unnecessary. If they had listened to her warning, they would still be alive. But their arrogance had reflected a systemic problem. The galaxy had believed that some species were meant to serve while others were meant to rule. That belief was dying now. Slowly, perhaps, but inevitably. The strike had proved that no species was inherently superior to another. Everyone had strengths and weaknesses. Everyone deserved respect. Across the galaxy, in schools and universities, teachers were beginning to incorporate the labor strike into their curricula. The lessons varied depending on the species and culture, but certain themes emerged consistently. On the Valorian homeworld, students learned about the reactor crisis. Teachers emphasized how human volunteers had saved billions of lives despite having every reason to refuse. The lesson was about the difference between power and cruelty. Humans had possessed the power to let Valorians die, but they had chosen compassion instead. In Krenth military academies, instructors analyzed the strategic implications of the strike. They taught cadets that true strength included knowing when not to fight. Humans had won their freedom without firing a single shot, simply by refusing to participate in an unjust system. It was a masterclass in nonviolent resistance. Luminary philosophers debated the ethical questions raised by the strike. Was it right for one species to possess biological advantages over others? How should society balance individual rights with collective needs? The discussions were complex and ongoing, but they all started from a new premise. No species should be exploited regardless of their capabilities. A young CHXRA student named Tikva was particularly fascinated by human history. She spent hours in the archives reading about Earth's past. She learned about human wars, human art, human science, and human philosophy. She discovered that humans had struggled with the same questions of fairness and justice within their own species for thousands of years. Tikva wrote an essay that won a prestigious award. In it, she argued that humans had taught the galaxy a lesson they had learned long ago on Earth. That kindness without strength is helplessness, but strength without kindness is tyranny. Humans possessed both, and they had used both to change the galaxy for the better. Rita eventually returned to council chambers to continue her work. There were new challenges every day. Implementing the Human Rights Protection Act across 300 species was complicated. Some species tried to find loopholes. Others genuinely struggled to understand the new requirements. Rita spent long hours in meetings, negotiating compromises and clarifying regulations. But she never lost sight of why she was there. Every time she felt frustrated with political games, she remembered the miners, the firefighters, the rescue workers, and the reactor technicians. She remembered people who risked everything simply to do their jobs. She was their voice and she would not let them down. One day, a package arrived at Rita's office. Inside was a small crystal sculpture of a human figure standing tall. The attached note was from Counselor Shelvar. For Rita Hayes, the note read, "Who taught an old Valorian that strength is not about forcing others to serve you. True strength is about choosing to help others even when you have every reason not to. Thank you for showing us what real power looks like." Rita placed the sculpture on her desk where she could see it every day. It reminded her of how far they had come and how much further they still needed to go. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Deathworlders were not servants or tools. They were equals. And their patience, which had once been mistaken for weakness, was actually the greatest strength of all. The strength to endure, to persist, and to never stop fighting for what was right. Every species still told the story. Every species remembered the day humans stopped being nice. And every species understood the lesson that would shape the galaxy's future. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never take patience for submission. And never, ever forget that Deathworlders choose to be gentle. But that choice is not permanent.